November 5th, 1952, at 4 a.m., Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky was shaken by a powerful earthquake. Buildings swayed and cracked, plaster fell from the ceilings, and dishes crashed to the floor. Panicked residents ran outside, feeling the ground tremble under their feet for another 5 minutes before everything went quiet. At that moment, far out in the Pacific Ocean near the earthquake's epicenter, an enormous wave formed and rushed toward the shores of Kamchatka and the Kuril Islands at incredible speed. Half an hour later, the wave struck the land, pulling people, boats, and entire settlements into the ocean, including the town of Severokurilsk. After the first wave came a second, then a third. Thousands of lives were lost. No land could be seen. Everything was underwater. The next day, a grand parade was held in Moscow to celebrate the anniversary of the October Revolution. Newspapers across the country congratulated workers on the occasion, yet none mentioned the catastrophe that had taken place just the day before. The country remained unaware of the thousands of lives lost, as all documents related to the disaster were immediately classified. At 4 a.m., the people of Severokurilsk were woken by a strong earthquake. Lamps swung from the ceilings, glass shattered, and residents rushed outside. Earthquakes were common in the region, and many were accustomed to them, but this one was much stronger than usual. 5 minutes later, the shaking stopped. The sky was clear, the moon was shining, and the night was unusually warm for November. Thinking the danger had passed, people began returning to their homes, unaware that the real disaster was yet to come. At that same moment, the head of the local police department, Diryabin, stepped outside to check on the detainees held in the station. The ground was still trembling, and the building housing the detainees was nearly split in half. Officials debated where to relocate them. Then, a terrifying roar came from the ocean. Turning around, they saw a massive wall of water heading straight for them. Diryabin ordered his men to fire their weapons and shout warnings about the incoming wave before they ran toward the hills. Hearing the noise, residents began fleeing their homes, many still in their nightclothes. The entire town seemed to be sinking into the ocean. The enormous wave demolished houses like grains of sand and swept away people desperately trying to reach higher ground. Within minutes, the wave receded, leaving behind devastation and carrying away homes and hundreds of victims. Survivors watched in shock as the water pulled back, exposing the coastline. The moonlight reflected off wet rocks, and an eerie silence filled the air. Cautiously, people began descending from the hills, hoping to find their homes intact and check on relatives who hadn't managed to escape. 20 minutes later, the second wave arrived. A 15-meter-high wall of water crashed onto the island, striking Severokurilsk with immense force. Splitting into two sections, one part of the wave surged toward the northeastern peninsula, destroying everything in its path, while the other hit the town itself. The powerful surge wiped out the remaining buildings. Cars, debris, and people were caught in the violent current. The second wave caused even more destruction. As it receded, it created a massive whirlpool, pulling in anything still afloat. Smashing into the coastal barrier, the wave obliterated the port, scattering fishing boats and barges like twigs. It was this second wave that ultimately erased Severokurilsk from existence, taking most of its residents with it. The third wave was weaker, but it completed the devastation, leaving the shoreline littered with debris. The city was completely destroyed, with only a few buildings on higher ground left standing. Across a vast area, fragments of homes, personal belongings, and bodies floated in the water. Survivors who had stayed on the hills peered down, straining to see what remained of their town. But in the dim, pre-dawn light, nothing was visible. Only the sound of water remained. Soon, reconnaissance planes arrived, surveying the destruction and taking photographs. Rescue boats followed, but navigating the wreckage was difficult. Debris and tangled fishing nets clogged the water. Rescue teams and military personnel arrived, launching efforts to mitigate the disaster's aftermath. Unfortunately, reports later revealed that some individuals took advantage of the chaos. According to official records, some stationed soldiers, including officers, looted bottles of alcohol scattered throughout the ruined town. One destroyed fish processing plant contained a safe with 280,000 rubles, which was stolen. Another postal safe was broken into, and the money inside was placed in a sack by unknown individuals who attempted to flee but were caught and handed over to military authorities. A senior lieutenant ordered his men to gather supplies, bags of grain, barrels of vegetable oil, from damaged warehouses and bring them back to their base. After the relief efforts ended, many of the wiped-out settlements were never rebuilt. As a result, the population of the Kuril Islands declined significantly by the mid-1950s. Severokurilsk was reconstructed on higher ground, but one critical factor was overlooked. The new location remained at risk, now from volcanic mudflows caused by nearby Abeko, one of the most active volcanoes in the Kurils. The tragic events of 1952 showed that Severokurilsk was unprepared for such a disaster. Residents were never taught how to react to tsunamis, and the town had been built based purely on economic considerations, with little thought given to safety. Many locals had never even questioned the purpose of the old staircases left by the previous Japanese inhabitants, staircases that led up the hills to safety. It was only after this catastrophe that the Soviet government decided to establish a national tsunami warning system. That's a wrap. Smash that like button, drop a comment below, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next episode. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.